This is the Korean peninsula. People here endure two kinds of cold: the bitter cold of winter and the icy tension of a divided land. No one knows when the Cold War between North and South will end, but the chill of winter, that they've learned to overcome.
I like kimchi.
저는 파김치 좋아해요.
파김치. 저는 그 열무김치.
Yes, with kimchi, a dish that helped them survive the harshest winters. But how can a simple food possibly stand against temperatures as low as -20 degrees Celsius? It wasn't until 105 CE that the Chinese discovered how to make paper. Koreans had been fermenting kimchi for centuries before that. The earliest records of this dish appear in the Book of Odes, or Shijing, one of the 5 classic texts of Confucianism, compiling ancient Chinese poetry from the 11th to the 7th century BCE. These texts mention the practice of pickling vegetables to preserve them through harsh winters, a method akin to the rudimentary form of kimchi. Thus, kimchi has a history of stretching back 2,000 to 3,000 years. Let's travel back to the early days of Korean civilization to see how this dish was created. From its earliest times, Korea has been a land with a strong agricultural tradition. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of some of Asia's oldest rice fields in various regions of the southern peninsula, proving that agriculture took root very early, possibly during the Neolithic period. This is why the Korean diet has long centered around vegetables. The peninsula's cool summer climate is ideal for growing root vegetables like radishes. The earliest form of kimchi was made from these homegrown radishes. The process was simple. Radishes were sliced, soaked in brine, and fermented in jars. These jars were hung over wells or buried underground for at least a week to maintain the right temperature. For those more meticulous, fermentation could last months, depending on weather conditions and desired flavors. Generally, after this period, the primitive kimchi was ready to eat, with the salty brine blending with the subtle tanginess from fermentation. The story becomes more complex when scholars debate the true origins of modern kimchi. One group argues that kimchi made from Napa cabbage emerged during the Three Kingdoms period, 1st century BCE to 7th century CE. Evidence is found in the records of the Three Kingdoms, published in 1145. The scholars who compiled this text observed Korean customs of making kimchi using Napa cabbage, red chili powder, and fermentation jars. According to these records, red chili powder came from chili plants widely grown on Chodo Island, a region known for its favorable climate for chili cultivation. In areas where salt was scarce, red chili powder was used as a substitute to enhance flavor and aid preservation. Thus, these records suggest that the modern form of kimchi existed around 2,000 years ago. Another group disagrees, asserting that Napa cabbage only appeared in Korea during the Goryeo dynasty due to active trade with Japan and China. Moreover, they argue that red chili powder wasn't present in Korea until Japan's invasion in 1592 during the Imjin War. They provide evidence that chilies were introduced to Japan by Portuguese traders in the 16th century, and the Japanese later brought this spice to Korea during the war. With ambitions to conquer northeastern China, the Japanese continued to spread chilies during their conflicts with Joseon, Korea. According to this second group, modern Napa cabbage kimchi developed in 2 major phases. First, when Napa cabbage was introduced during the Goryeo dynasty, and second, when chili powder became widespread during the Joseon dynasty. Regardless of the debate, one undeniable truth remains. Napa cabbage kimchi is now the most iconic type of kimchi across both North and South Korea. The method of making it has been passed down almost unchanged through history. Koreans still prepare fine salt, thoroughly wash Napa cabbage, and rub salt between each leaf to ensure even absorption, softening the cabbage and preparing it for fermentation. Next, they add a variety of seasonings: minced garlic, shredded ginger, chopped green onions. Most crucially, chili powder is included, giving kimchi its vibrant red color and signature spicy kick. In South Korea, kimchi tends to be spicier with more chili powder, while North Koreans prefer a slightly sweeter flavor. Finally, the mixture is stored in jars and fermented at low temperatures for 4 to 6 months. Initially, kimchi was consumed within families. However, it began to be mass-produced and commercialized when Korean soldiers fought in Vietnam during the 1960s and 1970s. These soldiers, raised on the flavors of homeland kimchi, couldn't live without it in a foreign land. To meet their needs, kimchi was produced in large quantities and shipped to Vietnam, marking a turning point in its commercialization. Gradually, kimchi appeared at international events, captivating global diners. It debuted at the 1984 Los Angeles Summer Olympics, followed by the 1986 Asian Games and the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Alongside South Korea's efforts to promote cultural diplomacy, kimchi cemented its international reputation, becoming a dish that represents the culture and identity of both Koreas. UNESCO recognized the kimchi-making traditions of South Korea and North Korea as intangible cultural heritage in 2013 and 2015, respectively. Today, over 180 types of kimchi have been documented, including Napa cabbage kimchi, kakdugi made from Korean red radish, cheonggak made from white radish, and dongchimi, a watery kimchi served with broth. Each type has its own flavor and preparation method, reflecting the diversity of ingredients and regional culinary styles. Kimchi is a staple in any Korean meal as part of banchan, the culture of side dishes. A small portion of kimchi is served alongside main dishes, embodying Korean flavors while carrying stories of how locals survived harsh winters. We all know the Korean peninsula lies in the northern hemisphere at a relatively high latitude. Its unique geography subjects it to a continental climate with stark seasonal differences. Winter stands out, not only for its bitter cold, but also for the iconic snow-covered landscapes familiar to fans of Korean dramas. Typically, winter on the peninsula lasts 3 months, from December to February. If you think 10 degrees Celsius is chilly, you'd need to bundle up for Korea. Winter temperatures rarely exceed 0 degrees Celsius. In the northern regions near China and Russia, people endure an average of -8 degrees Celsius for 3 months. In Seoul, the average winter temperature is around -5 degrees, while Busan, a southern port city, is milder, at about -1 degree Celsius due to warm ocean currents. Mountainous areas are even harsher, with temperatures hovering around -20 degrees Celsius and heavier snowfall. The Korean peninsula experiences a dry cold, with little rainfall during winter. This intensifies the chill and renders the land barren, with frozen water posing significant challenges to agriculture. Despite Korea's agricultural tradition, 70% of the peninsula is mountainous, with ranges like Baekdu and Taebaek dominating the terrain. Flat, arable plains are small and fragmented. When snow falls and rain becomes scarce in winter, where would farmers find land or water to cultivate? If growing crops was impossible, the solution was to store them. In spring and summer, when the weather is warm and rain abundant, Koreans grow large quantities of crops, especially vegetables like cabbage, radish, and green onions, to prepare for the cold months. But they needed a way to preserve this vital food supply through 3 months of winter. And so, kimchi was born. As described earlier, kimchi is essentially fermented vegetables seasoned and stored in large buried jars. Fermentation was a brilliant Korean innovation. Kimchi is kept in porous clay jars called ongi, which allow some gas exchange. The fermentation process produces lactic acid, which inhibits the growth of bacteria and mold. Without refrigerators or greenhouses, Koreans could ensure a steady, clean supply of vegetables throughout the winter. Generations of experience taught Koreans that this fermentation method gave kimchi a unique flavor. The blend of lactic acid's tanginess, chili's heat, salt's savoriness, and the natural sweetness of vegetables made kimchi indispensable to family meals. From a preservation technique, kimchi became a dish that sustained families through snowy winters. But beyond that, it carries a distinct cultural beauty unique to Koreans and East Asians. When the first cold winds swept across Korean fields in ancient villages, it was time for communities to harvest the season's crops. After gathering the freshest vegetables, entire villages would come together to make kimchi. This tradition, called kimjang, has existed for thousands of years on the peninsula. Everyone from children to the elderly participated in washing, salting, seasoning, and packing kimchi into jars. A single family could produce hundreds of kilograms of kimchi during kimjang, often shared with neighbors, especially those in need.
Korean women come together and make kimchi, napa cabbage kimchi in kimjang season, and it's supposed to feed the
Thanks to mothers and grandmothers, this cultural practice has been preserved and passed down through generations. Though kimjang appears in late autumn, preparations begin in spring. Seafood is salted to make jakgal, fermented shrimp, fish, or squid, to enhance kimchi's flavor. In summer, red chilies are harvested, dried, and ground into gochugaru powder, while sea salt is collected for pickling. Kimjang embodies the communal spirit of Koreans, who work together to share resources and survive harsh winters. Jennifer Kim, a Korean-American chef in Chicago, recalls, "My mom, my grandma, and close friends would come over. We'd have a huge plastic tub, and everyone would squat around it. Kimjang was an excuse to gossip, laugh, and spend hours together. The beauty of kimjang is that each family has its own kimchi recipe, and they freely share or exchange their creations with others. Today, kimjang is often held during Chuseok, Korea's version of the Mid-Autumn Festival. In 2013, UNESCO recognized kimjang as an intangible cultural heritage of South Korea. Koreans didn't just conquer winter by stockpiling food. They did so through the spark of unity within their communities. The land of kimchi is a fitting name for South Korea. This dish will endure as a testament to the resilience of Koreans and as an invisible thread, bringing the hearts of millions worldwide closer together.